Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Ashley. I'm a homeschooling mom with 7 kiddos. We have a 13-year-old all the way down to a year-old. I wanted to talk today a little bit of a chit-chat, sit-down video. I mean, I'm sitting in most of my videos, but a little bit of a chit-chat in regards to finding joy in your homeschool. I heard something on the radio the other day that sparked me to think about this. Finding joy in life in general, or in just everyday, regular days, boring maybe, just finding that joy in each day. And so I kind of interpreted that and put that into a homeschool context, and really thought about, if people are struggling with homeschool in general, or struggling whether or not you have one kid or you have 12 kids, struggling with, am I doing this correctly? Am I, where is the fun in this? My kids fight, or my kids just can't get these things. They can't grasp these things. Am I not teaching it right? Etc. There is always going to be hard days. I have those days too, and typically it will be one child is a saint and one child is not that day. Or I have 2 kids that are acting up and 3 that are being great. It's just, there is no consistency when it comes to homeschooling this wide range of ages, for one, but in general also, especially if you are one that has come from public school in the last, year or 2, then this is new territory for you. So I went to I have 5 things that I really thought about that allow me to, if I am having a hard day or a frustrating day, I'll say a frustrating day, because I don't really have hard days, and I am I feel very blessed in that regard, that I really don't have these days where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't ever have that. But I do have days where I get frustrated at a particular child, or frustrated at myself for not getting things together in time, or, whatever. There's so many variables in my day and in my week that I think it is very important to give yourself grace. And actually, that is probably something that I should start off with, is giving yourself grace. Kind of puts that joy back into your homeschool if you are frustrated, or if you have had some difficulty in your homeschool. You, just as you would give your own children grace for having a bad day, because they're kids, you are allowed to have a bad day. You are allowed to have a day where you just are like, oh my gosh, can I even do this anymore? I think people put too much pressure on themselves, especially if you are coming from public school, because I did that when I started, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. I put a lot of unnecessary guilt, especially at the beginning, for things that maybe I wasn't, was I doing it correctly? Was I teaching it correctly? Was this, is this the correct way? I have a college degree, but it is not in education. And it is not something that I thought that I would ever be doing, ever. And so when this, spoke to me years ago, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, are you kidding me? And so the amount of resources and the amount of things that you can find online, and people that you can reach out to who have been there for a long time, or videos on YouTube that you can watch, helps you to find that grace and give yourself that grace in yourself, and to experience the joy that homeschool is. I feel like like I said, coming from public school, I really had a lot of expectations, and you've got to let those go. You have to realize that this is your own little school. This is, depending on where you live, this is something that typically you are doing all your own unless you're part of a co-op. And so you can do things how you want, with the exception of some states, I'm sure. I've always said that Texas is very, very lenient. They do not check on you. They do not require any testing or, excuse me, or anything like that. You go and you're on your way, and that's it. I didn't have to hardly do anything at all to get my kids out of public school. So one thing that I think everybody, even I, have done this before, is finding your joy and putting it down, listing it down if you need to. What was your why? Why did you start homeschooling? What were your reasons? Why are you still homeschooling? What makes you want to continue to homeschool? Write down your whys, and I guarantee you will look at those and say, that is why. That makes sense. This is exactly why I need to snap out of this funk that I'm in and get to work, because this is my work. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So writing it down and seeing it on paper will help you to appreciate what you are doing more than if you just try and think, wait, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this again? Seeing it on paper is just a game changer. Documenting as much as you can. And I don't mean like documenting what their curriculum is. I mean documenting everything by picture taking or having them, write certain things out and keeping those things. I am not one that like throws away. I do not throw away like my kids' stuff. Like I just don't. I keep a lot of stuff. I am a hoarder in that regard. Like I am always like, oh, they did this in kindergarten, I have to keep it. I don't throw anything out. So for me, gives me joy. That brings me joy when I can keep things that they did and document things that they did by pictures or videos, or having them do crafts, documenting those days, documenting those little holidays or those celebrations that you have in your homeschool. That brings me so much joy. You have no idea. So, and then putting them like all in a photo book, or having keepsakes that you can look back on and say, this is why I did it, because this would not have been possible if they were in public school or gone, to private school or whatever for 8 hours a day. Take advantage of all of the ages and the grades that you have, whether or not you have 2 or 5 that you are homeschooling, that they can do the same activities and the same lessons in general, but the same activities and fun things during the day. If you want to do something, you can all do it. It promotes such a sense of family like unit when all of your kids are together all the time and they're not separated by grade and by friends saying, oh, they're too cool, you're too cool for your younger sibling, your 7-year-old sibling, or you're whatever. Having them together all the time and being able to do all of these things together brings me joy, because I know that would not have been possible if they were in public school. It would not have been possible if they were in school, because they would have been away from each other all day. And then they come home and then they go to sports or their activities and they're away from each other. And then they get home at, very late at night and they're basically never around each other. So this promoting the sibling relationships brings me joy. So I guess this should probably be titled "What Brings Me Joy in Homeschool," really, but I think it's applicable to so many of you that are maybe caught off guard by this homeschool thing. Maybe you were thrown into it. Maybe it was, like I said, something that you never thought that you would do, similar to myself. And these things, you have to have constant reminders sometimes of, why am I doing this? Like I said, I don't ever feel like my kids should not be doing what they're doing now, what we're doing now. I don't ever feel like my kids should be back in public school. So that is not a struggle for me. Mentally, that is not a struggle for me. My hard days are nothing thinking about if I had to put them in public school. So, but for some of you that might be, and for some of you that might be a real struggle. You might really be on this big struggle bus and trying to figure out, where is the joy in this? How, like I said, kids that don't, that just don't do what they're told, school-wise, or they have attitudes, or they just don't listen, or you just clash with certain things, or they're just not grasping something, or you don't know how to teach something. It can really put a damper on things. So I'm just trying to kind of show you what brings me joy and how you can bring that to yourself by recognizing all of these things. Realizing that you can take days off if you need to. You as a parent and you as a teacher can do that as well. If you need a mental break, then by all means take it. It's okay. They're going to survive if they do not do one day of school, because you need a mental break. Your sanity is more important than you being afraid of them missing a day of school. They can always catch up, and if you are not 100% there, it's not going to do your kids any good. It's not going to do you any good, and you're just going to end up in a worse position. So taking those days off, that can help you kind of rejuvenate and get that joy back and get that kind of peace back, that this is what you are supposed to be doing. And finally, you can add any of these subjects that you want to add into your homeschool. You can teach them any of these things. I mentioned a life skill book that I'm going to be buying for my older kids to kind of go over, like, life skills that you should probably be learning as a teenager or a tween, that maybe we didn't learn as kids growing up, or maybe as adults you don't know these things, changing a tire, or cooking this or cooking that, or pumping gas, or all of these things that I think are so important that we as parents don't think about when we think about learning in school. These are things that budgeting, or grocery shopping, or it used to be how to write in a checkbook, but really, who does that anymore? How to, I don't know, how to bake a cake, how to, any of these things that seem so maybe easy for you, but they don't teach these things in school. Use this opportunity as a homeschooling parent to teach your kids these things, and realize that you are the one teaching your kids these things. You're not, saying, go Google it. I don't know, go Google it. You are responsible for teaching them these things. And so that alone should bring you joy, knowing that you are able to do that. A lot of these things are things that you should flip and say, I get to do this. Not not as an inconvenience, but as a privilege. That brings me joy. I've said this like a ton of times in this video, but that brings me joy, knowing that I can flip my mindset and say, instead of, I don't know, gee, I really don't want to clean today because, X, Y, and Z, or I really don't want to teach math today because whatever reason, I hate geometry or hate algebra. But flip it. I get to do this. It might be a little bit of a struggle, but I get to do this. This is something that you get to do. You are privileged to do. So finding joy in your homeschool can be hard if you are on the struggle bus and you are, struggling with a particular child, or struggling just how to teach things or how to navigate things, or maybe you work and you're trying to figure out how to do all of the things. And but know that there are little things, like I mentioned, that you can pick out of your days, that you can pick out of your weeks or your months, and look back and turn that around to be joyful experiences and positive experiences. And look for all these little things. And like I said, make your list of why you started doing this, of why you want to continue homeschooling. And then all you have to do when you're feeling in a funk is to go and look at that list and say, this is why I'm doing this. These are the things that have brought me joy so far in my homeschool. And this is what I'm going to kind of read over and over, or think about over and over when I'm having tough days. So just a little food for thought that I think some people might experience more than we know. And it just takes a little bit, like I said, a little switch of mindset to recognize these things. So let me know if you have any questions down below about anything that I mentioned, or if you have things that you want to add on to this. And anyway, I will see you guys next time. Take care.